episode number 11 already. We're here once again at Okemo Valley TV. This is the Tasty Twist with Sammy B. I am your host, Sammy Blanchette. Shout out to Peter, Patrick, and Rebecca for always doing a fabulous job here helping me produce this program. Once again, this is a brand new podcast featuring local Vermont musicians or any Vermont musicians anywhere in the state. Whoever wants to be a part of it. Could be business owners in the future also as well too. Anybody. The show's been a lot of fun so far. Multiple ways that you can follow the Tasty Twist is you can go to my website, sammybmusic.com, where you can find all 5 episodes listed so far, along with ways to follow my own personal music on streaming platforms like Spotify, Apple, Amazon, iTunes, my full list of shows anywhere in New England, my online merch store, photos, videos, etc. And for Okemo Valley TV, check them out, okemovalley.tv. Subscribe to their YouTube channel. Also follow them on local television channels like VTEL 166 and 167, Comcast channel 1076, and 1086 as well too. And don't forget, you can also download their mobile app on their phones and all the TV platforms. I imagine that I had to stumble there for words for a minute. But anyways, download their mobile app and subscribe to their YouTube channel. Well, a couple weeks ago, we interviewed one of the drummers of Rick Reddington and the Tough Love. Today, we got the other. He's also from Connecticut, or spent a lot of time in Connecticut. He's a full-time painter. He's a ski instructor at Okemo, and he's become one of my best friends. We have a nickname for ourselves, the Badger Brothers, which is an Abbott and Costello or Three Stooges references. You're going to find that out for yourself on the interview right here. We have Jay Osborn. Yo. That's quite the smile right there. Yeah. Well, okay, you know how this rolls. So we talk, chat. Begin, my friend. The floor is yours. It's your show now.
Okay. I'm not sure where to begin.
Yeah, well, that's for you to decide. So you already had to flip your hat forward, so you must have put your thinking cap on it, right?
I did put my thinking cap in. But, you know, the trick is sometimes not to really think and just let it flow.
Right? There you go. Well, we can start with a very basic question. How long have you now lived in Vermont?
13 years full time.
That's what I thought. Yeah. Still digging it after all these years?
I'm still digging it. You know, it's like working on Okemo in the ski school, and people would ask me if I like Okemo. It's like, well, I keep coming back every year. You know,
there you go.
This would be my 20th season, I think.
Wow.
Working with the
and that
school.
was in between Killington as well, too, right? Spending some time.
20 at Okemo and 3 at Killington.
That's awesome.
So if I'm thinking of this correctly, I did 17 at Okemo.
Is this a puzzle? It's
not a puzzle.
It can be if you want it. It can be. Well,
square around.
We have to get a trade. We have to get a trademark, though. That's what I'm saying. We got to get a trademark if it is a puzzle. So yeah, continue.
Well, that's up to the listener to decide.
Right.
So 17.
Thank you to everybody who has been listening and checking out so far. By the way,
after 17 years at Okemo, I decided I really needed a break, and went to Killington for 3 seasons, and then I was ready to come back to Okemo, making this my 20th season.
That's fantastic.
Does that add up right?
Yeah, it does. It does. You're almost ready for your lifetime pass or achievement award.
Yeah, how many years is that?
Well, since it's been under the new ownership now, I don't know how they transfer the years. But anyways, let's just say your needs, in your eyes, you're pretty much ready for a lifetime pass.
Yeah,
I think you're
getting close.
I think you're ready for a lifetime
getting close.
Pass. Yeah.
We'll see if I make it that far.
That's awesome.
One season at a time.
Yeah,
I have to get to this season first.
Yeah. Kind of skipping around questions like I always do. With being an instructor and a drummer in many different projects, it has to be an incredible networking opportunity still after all these years, meeting new people and just so many new gigs popping up, right?
I've learned that in time that, one facet of my life will complement or help cross over other things.
Yeah, we've chatted with it before. How is it balancing painting, skiing, and drumming? Essentially acting as your own agent.
It's not that difficult because in the wintertime I'm mostly skiing. There isn't much painting going on, so I don't have to really think about that. I don't have to deal with that.
Being your own boss, you make your own schedule.
Make my own schedule, but there isn't much painting in the wintertime anyways.
Yeah, but so you like to do interior and exterior. But you pick and choose like when Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
But I mean, in the summertime, like now, that's the challenging part is balancing the painting and the music, especially with Rick Reddington and Tough Love.
Yeah.
Where, schedule sometimes 2, 3, even 4 shows a week, and I try to really push aside the painting, so I could focus on that.
When did you start with Rick Reddington again?
Almost 2 years ago. It's been, we're going on our 2nd year now.
And you guys have an album that you just released at the Underground in Randolph, right? Vincent Freeman's place?
That was a month ago.
Nice. Awesome.
And that album should be out maybe this fall, I think, fall, winter. I'm
right.
not exactly sure.
That's awesome. How many songs did you do on the recording again?
Oh, my God. 5.
5.
Maybe 5.
That's awesome. And that was right in the listening room, right? That was in that recording room.
So that was done more of a live setting than a studio setting per se.
That's awesome.
So we had 2 goes at the tracks. So once we were all set up, line checked, everything was ready to go, levels and all that stuff, our sound check was the whole album. We just ran all the songs. And then when the doors opened and we had an audience in front of us, that was our second take live. So we were able to listen to that initially. And, there's some tracks that we felt came out a bit better in the sound check and vice versa with a live.
How many times did you guys rehearse the material, like these songs in particular, outside of the Underground? Because you guys try to rehearse every week, right?
No, it depends on what's going on. So in this case, it might have been about a month before, 3 weeks before. Got together maybe 5 or 6 times.
Yeah.
To go over, tighten everything up.
Tighten up,
right?
Yeah. I saw you guys last summer with Erica at the Ludlow Concert Green. And it's a great setup in the gazebo. But my big takeaway is, and you had a third drummer that show, by the way, but just getting back to regular every show occurrence, you like the 2 drum aspect with Dave Lewis? You guys have great chemistry together.
I do. The chemistry is great. It's getting better, I feel.
Yeah.
And I continuously say that it's a multiple point learning curve for me.
Yeah.
1 being with a second drummer and 2 being primarily on percussion now, hand drums.
Yeah. How many years professionally have you been drumming now? Almost 30, right? I think you mentioned that. You've been doing almost 30.
I'm not sure how to answer that. It's like one of those things at what point do you take it back to?
Tough, you know what? You have to answer it,
the first time the first
start
time,
somewhere.
You got to start somewhere.
Got to start somewhere.
The first time I got paid to play any music, I don't.
That's kind of where I draw the line on the conversation is, when did you start getting paid?
In 97.
97.
Yeah, when I was in a band out of Wallingford, Connecticut called Setting Sun. And then they found another band out there with the same name that was signed and all this stuff. So they decided they had to change the name from Setting Sun to Green 21.
Right.
So I was with them for almost 2 years.
The whole copywriting, plagiarizing.
The whole copywriting thing. But the previous, and we're working backwards, which I love. I like working from now and then work our way back to the beginning.
Yeah.
So the previous 13 years, taking us back to, right?
84. If you do the math, 85.
85.
So that's 12.
That's 12.
Right. Good. Where'd you go to school?
Litchfield, Connecticut. Litchfield High. The Litchfield Cowboys.
I like to learn their math. 12 is 13. Nothing to see here. Continue.
So from 1985, when I started playing drums in drum corps, up to 97, that was all non-paid, just drum corps volunteer.
What was the first drum percussion piece that you played? Because you know how
song or instrument-wise?
Instrument-wise.
Bass drum.
Bass drum.
Big honking bass.
Right, in band, right? That I remember
marching,
playing when I was in high school. That's what I played a couple of times. I remember it was fun. Yeah.
Yeah, with the 2 mallets.
Two mallets. Yeah, I would imagine
it might have been
2
1.
mallets.
I can't remember now.
It could be 1. But there's that math again. Who? There's that owl again.
Yes.
Anyway, so the bass drum, but I'm assuming you hopped on kit soon after that, right?
No. I got a kit very early on, and I still remember my brother backing a box truck up to the garage at my parents' house. Two of my brothers worked for an antique
Did he hit
gallery.
the house by accident too? Did he back too far?
No, he did not back too far. But helping him unload a bunch of stuff, and the last thing all the way in the front of the truck was a drum set, it was a Slingerland. He's like, this is yours. Get it off of here.
Get it off.
That was my first.
Yeah.
That was my first.
So it was fully claimed to be yours.
It was fully claimed to be mine.
Right.
Yes.
But did you know that it was yours?
I did. Oh, yeah.
Oh, you did? Oh, yeah.
Almost immediately.
Okay.
That's your drum set. Get it off the truck.
Get it off. This is my truck. Get it out now. I don't want to see this ever again.
So putzing around with that for a number of years, not really knowing what I'm doing, just focusing on drum corps, rudimentary snare drum, bass drum stuff. I didn't do a lot until, well, really like 97, 96, 97, when I was in what I consider to be my first full rock band. You know, outside of, friends coming over with a guitar, kind of playing a little bit.
But being like a garage band, sort of.
Or being, no, not even.
I meant the goofing around part, like when people come over to the garage.
Yeah,
and
so
stuff,
either just one person with a guitar and me on my little Slingerland drum set, or being at somebody's house where there's a drum set and just kind of playing one or two songs.
Yeah.
And then a couple short collaborations with some people where we started learning songs, but never really went anywhere. Very short-lived.
Was it hard rock or classic rock that you played with the first group you were talking about?
Classic rock.
Classic rock.
Yeah.
Yeah, you got quite the knowledge on the classic rock from the years that I've been hanging around with you.
Yeah,
you know?
so talking about the one lane thing, which has been coming up a lot. I was very narrow minded. Like the horse with the
good life lesson
on.
right there, folks. Staying in your lane.
Stay,
you all know what that
lane.
means. Staying in your lane.
Remember, the right lane is for traveling, and the left lane is for passing.
And when you stay in your lane, there's a lot less traffic.
Right.
So back to your version of the one lane. Yeah.
Right. So I was very one-tracked mind musically, where I listened to classic rock, 70s, 80s stuff.
Right. Hair metal stuff too.
Lots of hair metal in the 80s, but I really had no interest in of looking outside
country,
of
blues,
those.
Reggae, jam band even too.
I knew the stuff. I liked some of it,
but as actually playing it on a kit, you were like,
playing it or interested in the grooves or what's going on.
It was classic rock, and that was it.
Took me a long time for doors and avenues to open up, to be open-minded enough.
That weren't in your lane, but they grew to be a part of your lane.
And
did I just blow your mind right there?
You totally blew
I did, yes. Woo.
Did you blow all of your minds?
Yeah,
you
right?
You certainly blew my mind.
All right, yeah. Did you take lessons?
I did.
As a kid?
So in drum corps, I was in the junior fire department, Litchfield Fire Department, and we did, I don't know what it was, like 20, 25 parades a year. I don't know, firemen's parades.
That's awesome.
It was a Winston, Connecticut parade where I would often meet my cousin Gary Osborn, which is a bass player, but you played baritone, with the Connecticut Vagabonds. So we would often meet at the beer garden after the parade.
Nice.
And
how big were those parades?
I mean, small town Connecticut firemen's parades, small carnival. I mean, in the parade route, I don't know, the reviewing stand, 400 or 500 people.
Right.
Along the whole route, I don't know, maybe 1,000, depends.
Yeah.
Winston might have been 1,000, but Thomaston was way bigger. It might have been 4,000 or 5,000.
Sure.
I'm not sure.
It's a beautiful part of Connecticut, Litchfield County.
But not to get too sidetracked from this. So
we have plenty of time to get sidetracked.
So my cousin Gary asked me about my interest of marching, like with drum corps, playing some music. said, sure, seems like it'd be a lot of fun.
So when you were doing it in the Corps, did you also have to be trained as a fireman? Like an actual.
Well, when I was doing that, but I kind of quickly segued. Like by the next year, I was just in drum corps all the time.
Gotcha. Yeah.
But so he asked me what my interest was, like horn line or drum line. I'm like, the drum line. So he introduced me to the two top snare drummers, Sam Glassstetter and Brian Miller.
Wow.
Were pretty accomplished drummers,
Yeah.
especially for a young lad like myself. Really
Right.
looked like these guys were like the Buddy Rich.
You're still a
Neil
young
Peart.
lad. Give yourself credit. You're still a young lad.
There you go.
You know? Yeah. Yeah.
So I met them, and they're like, we get together every Monday night at this commuter parking lot off of Route 8 in Torrington. Be there. It wasn't the following. This was like a Saturday parade. It wasn't that following Monday. It was the Monday after, which is coming up, that anniversary. So the Monday after Labor Day, if you want to be.
Exactly.
So somehow I remember.
Usually falls on like the 8th or the 9th of September.
The 8th or 9th. So I got down there, met Bill Rutella, which was a very, very accomplished snare drummer, rudimentary guy.
Yeah.
And, he gave me a pair of sticks and a pad and went from square one. This is how you hold them. This is how you, rudiments, went through all that.
Would you say one of your biggest takeaways from learning from some of the best was discipline at your instrument? Like developing habits and consistencies with practicing?
Absolutely. Because it wasn't military per se, but it was military, like driven in style of marching, where everything, you had to be at attention, everything, the sticks had to be this height, this looking this way.
You know how we say everything is all relative? It doesn't necessarily have to be in a building. It just has to be in the mind of an individual to show you, hey, you should look at it this way.
But that, of course, resonated 12 years later when I got in my first established band, where particularly the lead singer, guitar player, Rick, doesn't matter, Rick. He would always try to make
it may matter.
It may matter to him. If you're watching, Rick, I'm sorry. Hope you're doing well. Hope you're still playing.
That's shot right there. Sammy, not a big deal. No,
not a big deal.
Doesn't matter. Yeah,
it was another time, another place.
Okay,
but no.
So Rick, no last name. You may continue. Yeah.
So he would like making fun of me, saying that I played like Neil Peart, but not so much rudimentary.
Actually works perfect because we just made fun of him technically. So it's the taste of the own medicine. So Neil Peart.
So if you watch Neil play,
Yeah.
I have always described Neil as being so perfect and clean that a blind person could just hear him and hear the guy is absolutely phenomenally perfect, right?
You've seen Rush live, right?
I mean, it's 6 times?
Six times.
5 or 6?
Yeah.
So
I only see him once. I can totally
also
attest to that. He is clean. Well, he was
yes, but
just insane.
So this is what I'm saying, that I would say more often that a deaf person cannot hear him. They could only see the man play. You could see that the guy was very precise and that's the way I played, and it kind of still resonates today. Where I'm sitting just like this, and everything is just moving my arms. I'm not like all over the place.
Who's still your biggest influence drum wise these days?
I was thinking of this yesterday because I knew the question
You could do a
was
top.
gonna come
You could
up.
do a top 3 or a top 5.
So I don't know for how long, more than 10 years now, 15, 20 years. I tried to steer clear of, the obvious, who are my top, Neil Peart, John Bonham, Buddy Rich. Those guys are like the obvious.
Yeah.
How about Adrian from Kung Fu and the Breakfast?
Oh, we've
influence. So there's two, so you need three. Who would be my third?
I would have to say, based on knowing you and our friendship, Billy Kreutzmann from The Dead.
I'm going to say.
I mean, there's so many.
I'm going to say Mickey Hart.
Mickey Hart,
just
okay,
because
yeah.
the last year
Sure.
of playing with Rick and Tough Love and David Lewis, of course.
Yeah.
Doing the percussion thing, I've been focusing a lot more on what Mickey Hart's doing than Billy.
When you and I have played with Sammy B and Friends or the Whatnots, that's what I've always admired about your drum kit or percussion style. It's very similar to Billy and Mickey from The Dead, which I like that spacey, like tribal vibe to it, man. It's awesome.
Yeah, so a lot of these things are interwoven and intertwined, through my years of, from drum corps to just being strictly like in a bar band and not looking outside of that to where I am now, like getting a lot more into bands like The Dead and Fish and Allman Brothers, being a lot more free form on stuff and not so regimented.
That's awesome. Any other instrumental people, whether it's bass guitar or saxophone, that are like major, that are like major influences to you still to this day?
Okay, so thanks for reminding me.
I had a brain fart right there thinking of all the possible influences.
Just blew my mind.
Right.
2 times.
Yeah. Well, I blew your mind and then you blew mine. Yeah.
I blew my own mind.
Must be getting old. 35 brain farts. Don't get old, people. Yeah.
So for the longest time, and I haven't really thought of it, so I would still stick with these two influences. Off of the Black Sabbath live album, double live album called Live Evil, and this is with Ronnie James Dio on vocals, right? The Heaven and Hell tour, 1980 something, I don't know,
right.
mid 84, 85, I don't know. But for the longest time, I was absolutely talk about being blown away by not only Vinny Appice's drum solo, it's the best thing I've ever heard, the sound quality of it, but what he did in it was fantastic.
Even for back then, the sound quality, right?
Right.
Or did they remaster it too?
It's probably been remastered, but I'm going back to like the first release. Not like a remastered, but also Tony's, right? Would have been Tony's guitar solo.
Okay.
And that also really stood out
Yeah.
as being one of the top guitar solos, very influential for me.
You've seen so many great shows over the years. Do you have a favorite moment, live show that you've seen?
Moment.
Because I know your involvement with Fish, obviously, with the fellowship and everything. You've seen so many Dead, Fish shows, Allman Brothers, Mo, Humphreys, McGee. Is there anything in particular in your time on this planet so far that's really stood out to you, show-wise?
Well, kind of like with the guitar solo and drum solo thing where it's my original story and I'm sticking with it. So from when AC/DC did the Thunderstruck tour in 1990 in Hartford, Connecticut, that stood way out as just being completely.
It was your first time seeing AC/DC?
My first or two, but I came out of that show absolutely blown right away. It's such a phenomenal show.
From the band sound, the set list, all of it, the entertainment value, the stage.
I mean, my friend Lenny and I were 26th row on the floor. I mean, they opened with Thunderstruck.
Oh, that's awesome.
This Hell's Bells with the giant bells.
Was it at the old Meadows?
No, the Civic Center.
Civic Center.
The Meadows.
I still call it the Meadows,
1990,
by the way.
Meadows was not built yet.
It wasn't?
It was built in like 95.
Oh, okay.
Something.
Gotcha.
Right? I think 1995.
You still call it the Meadows, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
Great Woods.
Yeah.
Certainly.
Yeah, Great Woods.
Yeah.
How about the Oakdale in Wallingford? I still call
Always
it the
would be the Oakdale.
Always going to be the Oakdale. Yeah.
What also stands out, I mean, I don't really think that deeply into it if one stands out more than the other, but Pink Floyd on their last tour.
Oh, yeah.
At Yankee Stadium.
Because that's one of your favorite bands, Pink Floyd.
That is what I consider to be my favorite band of all time.
That's awesome.
Yes.
Yeah.
Because I got absolutely obsessed with them during that tour. It was all I would listen to. All I would do was Pink Floyd all day, every day.
Right.
Literally would not listen to anything else for months until Phish came out with their first live album called The Live One.
What year did that come out?
96.
Okay.
I think. And I was part of Columbia House Records.
Right.
Where, to be a member, you have to give like a penny. It was like 1 penny. And then they'll send you whatever CD of the month. And if you don't like it, you send it back. If you like it, you keep it. And you got to pay for it, which none of us ever did. And they'll kick us out. And then, like, a year later, they're like, hey, we want you back in.
It kind of reminds me of when you go shopping at Aldi's in Rutland, for example, where you have to put the quarter in the shopping cart, and then you can, like, go shopping with the shopping cart. And then you say, oh, dude, yeah, you put the quarter in, then it releases it from the chain, then you go in, grab your groceries, and it's a whole system, man. It's awesome. It's like,
But this amazing transition that broke me out of a completely obsessive Pink Floyd bender, right? After, I don't know, 7 months, 8 months, I'm not exactly sure. And the Columbia House album of the month was Phish Live One. It was a double album. I had a 5-disc CD changer, all, Pink Floyd. Sid Barrett, of course, founding member of Pink Floyd. I decided to take only one CD out, right? Pink Floyd.
Right.
And put in the first Phish CD. The first track was Bouncing Around the Room.
Nice.
I think like by the end of that track or the second track, I was just like, started taking the Pink Floyd CDs out, started filling it with Phish.
What stood out to you about Phish when you first listened to them? Because them and the Dead have a lot of similarities, but also a lot of differences as far as how many genres they blend in together, and the writing of their lyrics as well, too. Like, what stood out to you about Phish that, like, hey, that's a solid group. I got to pay more attention to those guys.
The sound, the song structure. Because, at the time, they were, where are we, 96? So they've been around
13 years already.
Well, yeah, almost.
Because they formed in '83, I believe.
Yeah,
they were
technically
high school and college guys up in Burlington, and then they pretty much formed in college. Yeah.
Yeah, their first show. I can't remember. I think
their first show they played in front of one person in a coffee shop, right?
No, it could be, but what I remember is the first show was a Halloween show at the cafeteria at UVM.
Yeah.
So it was end of October, of course, of '83.
Yeah.
So that barely counts for anything. So they technically started in '83, but really started getting a bit more established in '84. So to fast forward to '96 with me,
when they're in like the height of their funk years, like this is like right in.
So
the
that's what I like.
that
The sound, the vibe of those, the flow and the harmonies, and everything, and bouncing around the room. And I think the second track is like Stash.
Nice.
And I'm just like staring at the CD player or speakers or whatever I was doing, like, wow, this is great.
I'm sure I've told you this. So as phenomenal as they still sound in their 60s today, 2024, in their storied career, for me, I'm still such a sucker for the 1994, 1998 days. Those shows were just absolutely incredible. But my first experience with them was MSG, 1995 into 1996, New Year's Eve into New Year's Day. And the first 5 songs on that, and it's a live album. Like I think it's a double CD live album too. Punch You in the Eye, Slow.
Show at Mohegan Sun.
Wow.
Well, 125th, 126th show.
Yeah.
And I love the new stuff, the last whatever number
New
of
stuff
albums.
is solid, yeah.
But I miss the stuff from back then when it was everything you mentioned.
Yeah.
From that era.
Yeah.
Because it was only the first 10, 15 years.
Yeah. The jazz compositions in those songs back then, just so good, man. And you get a lot of people that aren't really familiar with their music. If they just hear the lyrics, they're like, whoa, the lyrics make no sense. All they're saying is like David Bowie, UB40. I'm like, yeah, but like, how you always say, are you listening to me? I'm like, talk to you guys. Are you listening to the jazz compositions like in there, what they're doing? Yeah, that takes a lot of time to write that stuff, man. Yeah.
Just listen to how it all blends together.
Yeah. Speaking of time, let's segue back to when you moved up to Vermont 13 years ago. Were you like myself, a weekend warrior? Skiing, like what actually led you up here full time?
The first 10 years, I was up here for the winters and then summers in Connecticut, doing everything from painting to landscaping.
Yeah. Did you start painting right around the time you started learning how to drum? Was that something that you picked up like before you got into music?
A couple years after. So 1985 is when I, picked up sticks for the first time. 1988 is when I picked up a paintbrush for the first time. So a few years difference.
Yeah.
So coming up again, I think it'll be Monday the 8th or 9th, whatever that is, will be my 39-year anniversary of playing drums.
That's awesome. Wow. So almost 40. I almost had 40. It. I said 30. Yeah, dude, that's awesome. Talk about it all the time. We'll tell the audience how much work goes into both being a full-time musician and also being a full-time painter as well too. Just the prep work and then the post game, the breakdown.
Well,
it's a lot.
Circling back around to my challenge of balancing both. When I have both going on in the same week or sometimes the same day. Where I have to paint today, but I have a show tonight. Finding that balance, like say tomorrow. So with Rick Reddington and Tough Love, we have a show in Manchester at the town park. I think it's a Veterans Park or something like that.
Yeah.
At 5:30, Manchester, Vermont. Not Manchester, England. Not Manchester, Connecticut. Not Manchester,
New Hampshire. No,
Manchester, Vermont, 5:30 tomorrow.
Yeah.
And I have to work. So I'm doing that today. So after we leave here, I stop home real quick. I go to a house I'm painting down in Chester, right? So it'd be my afternoon there. Tomorrow it's going to be the other way around, where I'm going to start my day in Chester working on this house, and then I have to cut out at a certain time to get over to Manchester to play. Mm-hmm. But your question is really, right, the preparation of setting up for that job or gig and the breakdown process.
Yeah, it's blending all together of the pregame. So that includes driving to the gig or to a paint job. It's setting up the drum kit or the painting materials. The prep work is a lot. So we always joke around all the time. Hey, you're making X, Y, and Z, like, for gigs or for like painting and everything. It must be nice. And then, and sometimes, my good friend Jim Yeager made a very good point on episode number 3. Sometimes everybody that's not us doesn't really need to know all of this, but it doesn't hurt to let them know, like when you actually break all of this down, hey, you just made $300 for like a 3-hour show or whatever. Well, factor in social media, factor in graphic design, factor in the phone calls, the emails, and all the years of practicing beforehand. You're making maybe $15 an hour, $20 an hour for all the time spent.
And for the most part, people don't
for a 3-hour
understand
show.
That. The old joke going, I don't know, back decades probably, is definition of a musician. You take $5,000 worth of equipment, put it in a $500 car, drive to a gig to make $50. Mm-hmm. But yeah, like you said, it's like, oh man, you just made like $200. Like that's great. It's like, yeah, but the amount of time, like you said, sometimes, I mean, depending on the show and if I'm doing my full stage kit or percussion, my setup time could be anywhere from sometimes 15 minutes to 45 minutes setting up.
Yeah.
And then there's the show. Could be anywhere from an hour to 3 hours.
Yeah.
And then, like you said, the breakdown, Same thing. It could be anywhere from 15 minutes to 45.
Absolutely.
Depends on how much gear I have. Depends on what the load in. If I have stairs or corners or weather.
Yeah, weather's a big one. Yeah,
Which incidentally, side note,
that's same with music, by the way. All of our outdoor gigs. But yes, side note,
doing shows in the winter is a real drag, because especially like when I'm on the mountain all day, right? And I don't want to leave my drums in my frozen truck. But what's worse than that is after a gig, say like at Off the Rails or the Wild Fern, something like that.
You got to go back home. You got to reload the stuff into your truck.
Right. Well, yeah, take stuff out.
Right.
And
then depending on the venue,
by that time.
Right, exactly. You dealt with people all day as an instructor, and then in my case, working as a ticket scanner and guest services. Yeah, but in your case, with all the equipment you have with the drums, you got to go back home, reload it. Then, say a place like Off the Rails, you still got to bring it up 1 or 2 flights of stairs. Yeah. So, but having done this 20 years myself, and 15-ish really, no, 17 now. As far as first getting paid,
Math.
Right, exactly. Litchfield, yeah. So I was St. Joseph High School in Trumbull, Connecticut. Shout out to St. Joe's class of 2000, math again, 2007. WestCon 2011, 2013. Yeah, it's there's all this stuff that we explain to people, that there's so much more that goes on besides playing guitar and drums for 3 hours. By the way, there's no guarantee that everybody at the shows, depending on the venue, is going to like what you do. If it's a private event, that's a whole nother thing at a wedding. But bars and restaurants, there's no guarantee everybody's going to fully like every song that we do. But I would imagine for yourself, 39 years now doing this, at the end of the day, we're doing this because we love it and to please ourselves first and foremost, right? Our needs. If it's not about our needs first, why we're doing this, then what are we actually doing it for,
Right. Well, it's like being a ski instructor, where a lot of musician jokes are also, you can use the same for a ski instructor.
That old saying we always say, it's all relative. Everything's all relative.
But when I first started teaching in ski school, one of the things I remember hearing was, if you're in this for the money, you're in it for the wrong reasons.
Oh, yeah.
Or you're going to be sorely disappointed.
Right.
The same thing with music.
Right.
It's like, well, why do you want to learn how to play drums? Like, why are you you got this gig coming up. It's like, oh, I want to make the money. It's like, man, it's not the right reason, though.
Right. One cool thing happened this past weekend at my Whatnot show at Okemo with Ty and Artie is... and my dad was up here. He can attest. He's got the evidence also too. But some kids came up during the set break, the intermission, asking for my autograph. It could have been a Frisbee. It could have been a plate. I had some kids actually asking to sign my hands and my arms. You're 52 or 53. I'm 35 now. My big takeaway, the older I get doing this as a musician, I know you're always famous line, wait till you get to be my age, really cool. But anyways, it feels great making a difference for the next generation coming up, like now being of a certain age. Hey, you're a representative for not only Vermont musicians, but the entertainment industry. And so to have the opportunity to use a platform as a musician or a painter or an instructor or anything in a resort, it feels great to be a positive role model. Both of us. I would imagine it feels good to have a good reflection on the next generation, right? Or anybody for that matter.
Oh, totally.
Yeah. For anybody for that matter.
Yeah, but again, a lot of things are parallel with skiing and music, where you're influencing people, you're turning them on to what you're into. You're all enjoying this ride together. Whether it be skiing or a show. Like in this case, like say maybe a show where we're all having fun. We're up on stage, and we're feeding off of each other. And like you said, you come off the stage, whether it be like parents or grown-ups in general, or like kids, they're coming up to you and they're like really stoked. It's like, yeah, I'm stoked too. It's like, you guys sound great. It's like, yeah, I'm having a great time, you know? And it's just, it really goes both ways.
Music and skiing primarily are happy, positive outlets to just about everybody in a crazy, wild, not even sure what to make of this world at this point anymore.
The best therapist I've ever had, and I've had my share of therapy, no one ever really was able to help me, You know, my best therapist is music, my drums. When I'm sitting behind, drums and I'm playing, you can't put a price tag on that.
Yeah.
But like we're talking about, like with money, we don't do it for the money. Money isn't everything. But it's like, I tell people, and again, this can go for skiing, where like, well, you can spend $100 or whatever it is for a therapist every week, $150, or you can go out and play music for an hour and make $150.
Yeah.
And get more out of, for me, getting more out of music, and I'm actually getting paid for that said therapy session.
That's a very good point. I would imagine there's always got to be at least a couple of times a show, even with all the other things that we have to worry about on a day in, day out basis, where you have a couple of those moments where everything just releases as far as stress and tension in the middle of a drum solo or a guitar solo. And I would just sit there being going, yeah. And I'm just smiling at myself. I'm like, yep, it's all good. Everything just feels...
I've had some of those moments, of course, most recently playing with, Rick and the band.
Yeah.
The last couple, we like to do a drum space thing, kind of, Grateful Dead style tribal deal. And the last couple of drum solos that David and I have done have felt really good.
Yeah.
Of really feeding off of each other and being really tribal. Last year was my first year on stage at August West Fest with them up at Jay Peak, where literally the second half of the show we're in the song Althea, and my eyes like welled up. I started getting teary-eyed. It was just the deepest emotional thing I've ever felt on stage. And it wasn't so much like musically, like, oh, I love this band so much, this is great, like Dave's doing great, everyone's doing great. No, it was more like, for me, looking out at
it hit on something in your heart and your soul.
It did, but looking out over the audience and seeing all the tie-dyes and all the smiling faces and everyone dancing, it was seeing that got me just very emotional.
How's it been connecting with all of Rick's fans? Because Rick's got quite the history in Vermont and as a musician, and he's built up quite the fan base.
He does, yeah. That's great. A lot of those people I know either personally or have grown to know through the 17 odd years I've been, first discovered Rick and been following his shows. Yeah, it's definitely
going
good.
Back to the Dwayne Carlton days, the Heavily brothers.
Not that far.
Not that far.
Rick Reddington and the Love Machine, which was of course Rick, Blake Gowan on drums, Jeff Perimsky on bass, and Chuck. I can't remember his last name right now. On keys.
What did you say before about your other buddy? Doesn't matter.
It doesn't matter, but it matters to Chuck.
It matters to Chuck.
Sorry, Chuck, if you're watching.
God.
Enjoy your retirement.
Yeah. By the way, share the video and check out all the podcast episodes, Chuck. Yeah.
I was going to say real quick, circling back to, when you said you had some kid wanting you to sign his arm or whatever. So last week, Eric Jacqueline and I went up to Rutland for ice cream, and there's an ice cream shop there on Center Street. And lo and behold, we didn't know there's a big street fair, like I guess every Friday.
She got stuck in a ton of traffic?
We had, no traffic. Everything was good. We went, what's the Mexican place up there on the corner?
Taco Fresco.
Yeah,
Mark Williams.
And then we got ice cream. But on our way out of there, right, we were leaving, and Eric was a few steps ahead of me, and all of a sudden this couple comes up like, hey, aren't you drummer for Rick Reddington? And it's kind of like a fan interaction thing, where these people are longtime fans of Rick, but they remembered me,
remembered you,
and having that stop me on the street. And they didn't ask for autographs or photos, but they're like, hey, yeah, no, you guys are great. Love seeing you, and we'll see you up there soon.
It's all brand building, Jay, because again, you've got painting, you've got ski instructing, and you've got drumming. It's a nice eclectic mix to your resume. In my case, dog walking, seasonal employee for Okemo, working for my dad's company, Blanchette Sporting Goods, still a little bit here, and musician. If you have the being able to strike a conversation with someone and make a connection with them, I believe that old school approach of face-to-face communication. We talk about how we all get lost in these every single day. We're all guilty of it. The old face-to-face communication and making a difference when someone, seeing the eyes, the face, the tone of voice, that's what it all matters still kind of at the end of the day,
Yeah, that's definitely huge.
Yeah. Let's hit on a couple things really quickly before jamming. Life on the road. It's long. You like listening to podcasts, comedians, albums, etc. when you're on the road?
I listen to albums, and now with Sirius XM, which is kind of newer to me, the last, 3-4 years now. I mean, I knew of it, but I never had XM radio.
Yeah, I don't know how long Sirius has been around, but, it's got that monthly subscription option to endless amount of channels.
Well, what I'm saying is there's all kinds of things from, podcast to music to meditation. I have my regular playlist. Of course, some of the obvious channels like Fish, Grateful Dead. I got the Beatles. I got Bob Marley channel.
Yeah.
I have a channel called Spa, another one called Meditation, which are just really ambient stuff.
You ever spend time with Life with John Mayer, Channel 14?
I have not.
That's a good channel.
But I'm not really so much into the podcast thing, like listening to people, comedies, right? It's more music, very, very music based. So,
have you ever heard of the theory where if you're going to see Fish, for example, if you don't want to be spoiled or the surprises out the door when you go see them, when you're on the road trip, don't listen to that band beforehand? Have you ever done that before or tried that before?
No,
So if you go see Fish, let's say that you listen to Stevie Ray Vaughan the entire time on the drive to go see Fish.
For me, it's a primer. It's always been a primer. So back
There's that painting reference right there.
It is.
Primer. There you go.
It is. So
who's a good boy? Who's a good boy?
Going back to my early days of music in Connecticut, concerts in a hair metal days, hair bands, like Ozzy.
Did you ever have hair all the way down there?
I had hair down to my shoulders, maybe slightly past. But it would be a primer going to see what
ponytail.
I did try, I think, for a while. Ponytail.
Not into it.
No,
not happening.
I don't remember now, man.
Doesn't matter.
I think I did the ponytail thing.
Squirrel,
for a while.
brain, clown.
Right. So no, going to see whatever concert like in the late '80s, early '90s was all bands like again like Ozzy, Sabbath, Iron Maiden, Poison, David Lee Roth, whatever. Listening to those bands on the way to the show was a primer to get fired up to. Like, we're going to see these guys. This is going to be great.
Yeah.
And on the way home, not so much. On the way home, it would be just kind of the other way around. Which I need to tell this quick story. I went to see Dio at the Webster Theater in Hartford, right?
That's a Grateful Dead band, right?
Dio? Ronnie James Dio.
Oh, yeah. Well, I
now I
got to
far away.
Now I got to clean my ears out. I didn't hear that fully. Sorry, dude. Yeah.
Dio.
Dio.
Which his real name is Ronnie James Pasadena, something else, like an Italian
Sounds
name.
like a country.
Yes.
Pasadena.
But not quite. So anyways, I came out of the show, Dio, Yngwie, mind completely melted, incinerated, right? Driving myself back across Hartford, came across the Capital District, and I didn't have the radio on. I need something to decompress, just kind of reset. Just came out of a loud, mind-blowing show. And as I get on the entrance ramp for 84, I decide to flip on the radio and hit the search button, which it would just scan and stop on the first channel, picks up the signal of.
Kids nowadays would not know what we're talking about.
It was, but it was Enya, Enya, I think Enya.
Yeah.
Right.
That sounds about right.
It was her new track, new album. I think it was A Day Without Rain. I couldn't have asked for a more perfect. That was exactly.
Is she an Irish singer?
maybe. I don't know a lot about her. All I know is I just came out of this completely mind-blowing show.
Right.
And like no music for the first 5-10 minutes, whatever,
Right.
driving. And as I get on the highway, I flip on, like the song just started.
Yeah.
And by the end of that song, I was just like completely leveled me out, just got me totally into Zen.
That's awesome.
And one of those things where like the next day I went out and bought the album or something like that. I'm like, I gotta hear more of this. I like that track. I wonder what else she has.
Yeah.
You know, so.
That's awesome.
But that goes back to where we kind of talked about in the beginning of getting out of the lane that I'm always in, like the one track. Like I'm listening to this music, like rock and roll, or maybe hard rock metal. I don't need to listen to country or rap or jam bands or anything. I'm just listening. I'm happy in this lane. I don't need to go over
Do you do the
here.
speed limit in that lane?
Depends on the music, and that's a whole nother topic. But you
Whole
know,
other podcast
that,
episode.
That was
Yeah.
one of my first experiences with, you know, getting out of that lane. Like, wow, this is pretty good stuff going on over here. Like Enya.
So they built that exit. They built that exit ramp for you.
They did,
Right.
And
We can thank Enya for that.
not
Yeah.
quite the same way, but similar-ish sort of experience where the first house I lived in.
You know what
up
you just
here,
did? You know what you just
I
did right
am.
there?
I noticed
So you
that,
know what
yeah.
this is? You're like a basketball referee getting someone for traveling.
So what are you saying? I'm traveling? Am I
I'm
traveling?
just saying you might have a career in reffing also too. Teaching, squirrel, rabbit. There you go. Who's
Wait
a
till
good
you're
boy?
my age, man. You be doing this all the time.
What do you always say? You don't even know.
Right.
You don't even know. Yeah.
So the homeowner of the first house I lived in, I don't remember how it happened, but she asked me if I liked Richie Blackmore. Richie Blackmore, you know, Deep Purple,
Yeah,
Rainbow.
yeah.
Like, yeah, I love him. Here, check out this like new CD. You know, it's like Blackmore's Night, and that was totally transforming.
Yeah.
If you haven't listened to Richie Blackmore, and the way it described his music with Blackmore's Night, it's like forget everything you ever knew about Richie Blackmore. Forget about Rainbow. Forget about Deep Purple. Like it was completely different, like more Renaissance, medieval sort of era garb. Like their shows are like from the 14th century looking and sounding fantastic.
Life in the 14th century. Can you
But
imagine?
those are like my first two real influences outside of just the rock and roll 70s 80s.
That's awesome.
You know, like Enya and Blackmore's Night.
I never heard that. That's really cool.
Yes.
I appreciate you sharing that, man. I know where to find you because we're like best friends. We have so much more we can chat about on episode 2 if you want to come back for another episode.
Absolutely.
I would imagine.
Anytime.
Yeah. Let's end on this note. I always bring this up in an interview with musicians. So, being from Connecticut primarily, when you moved up here, were you stunned by how many talented artists were already up here? Mind blown number 3.
I'm going to say no because I didn't really know anybody and I didn't know the lay of the land that much. I knew some of the resorts. So in the mid-90s, I would ski Killington and Mount Snow all the time. Didn't know Okemo existed until I came up and I interviewed at Mount Snow in Killington and decided to take 100 South. And as I came into town here, I saw the job fair big sign at the base of the mountain.
Sandwich board?
Yeah, I decided to go up there, but I didn't know anybody or anything. So music-wise, you know, I knew some of the national acts that would come through primarily up at Killington.
Right.
You know, like 38 Special, Big Head Todd and the Monsters, like whoever else played up there, and NRBQ, or the whole slew of bands that used to play up there all the time in the 80s and 90s. So it took some time of getting around and meeting people and meeting other musicians.
Was it you that told me that Government Mule played at Savannah's back in 1994?
I don't think it was Mule. It was Warren Haynes. Warren Haynes played 2 times at Savannah's.
Yeah. Which is now Little Mexico.
Which
in
is
Love
now
Island.
Little Mexico.
Little Mexico, yeah.
And I know there's an audio file, maybe on archive.org, of at least one of those shows.
Yeah,
and
pretty
you
cool.
know, great show, everything you would ever expect.
Oh yeah,
I'm not sure if it was Mule. It might have been Warren Haynes.
he's still one of my all-time favorite guitar heroes. All the years seeing him with Mule and the Allman Brothers band
solid.
with Derek Trucks.
But kind of, I'm going maybe the long way around of answering your question of
I don't even remember the question. What was the question?
You know, were my eyes really open or mind blown or whatever?
Yeah.
To
that question.
to
Yeah.
local musicians.
Oh
in
yeah,
town.
that question. Yeah.
It wasn't really until I started getting out to open mics, as you know, is a great resource to meet people.
Yeah.
Man, I mean, I got to think back to probably my first experience with that. Like, wow, man, there's some serious talent up here. Is when I first met Blake Allen, and then I in turn met Rick Reddington, of course, and at the time
Was Killarney's one of the first open mic that you went to?
myself.
Yeah. No. Up here.
Oh wait, yes, you're right.
Back in the Steve Audsley days, the late great
Yes,
Steve Audsley.
Yep, there in Center Street. So I think like once I got introduced to Rick and the band, I'm like, there's some serious talent because
At Center Street?
No, I don't know wherever it was. I met Blake somewhere else. It wasn't a show. I met him somewhere. It was music related, some sort of open jam session thing, right? But then he's like, hey, yeah, I'm playing with this band over here. So I went and kind of immediately was hooked, particularly by the song. The song that did it for me with Rick Reddington was Gabriel. You know, it's kind of with Fish. Like once I heard Bouncing Around the Room live, I'm like, okay, I'm in. Where can I get more of this? So it's the same thing with Rick Reddington. He's probably going to roast the hell out of me now. You know, because I'm comparing Bouncing Around the Room Fish with like Gabriel.
Well, don't worry, because when we interviewed Dave Lewis and the post game with the pictures and everything, which you guys are photography experts now, we're going to be later on. Yeah. He said, "Don't give away too many of my secrets." So if you get in trouble for that,
get in trouble anyways.
It's story of your life.
Some people are looking for any fuel. It doesn't matter what you say or do; they're going to roast you anyways. So. But what
I can see in your head right now, it's going to be like, oh, Osborn's talking again. Let's get him. There it is right there. Right?
but once I met the whole band, I was like, there's some talent up here. Like Blake is a pretty decent drummer.
Solid drummer,
Like Rick is really solid. Yeah. I love what Jeff is doing, like on the bass and Chuck on the keys and all of that. And then somewhere in there, because they're all close friends, I met Dwayne Carlton. So that's when I started like really realizing like, hey, there's some serious talent up this way.
And the best part about it is the state of Vermont has always been so supportive of arts, entertainment, and culture that even though the tourism and the nature of the state itself is so seasonal, especially based around the ski resorts. When things are good and firing on all cylinders, there's so much support for all of us, which is what I've loved coming from Fairfield County, Connecticut, and the Black Rock area. I mean, you talk about some like big shots and like real talented guys down there. Tim and Adrian, just to name a few. My buddy Matt McNulty, just so many amazing artists down there. That it was a breath of fresh air coming up here. I also didn't know what to expect, and then I was like, oh yeah. There's some good cats up here.
But totally different, absolutely different scene, right?
Oh, for sure.
From Connecticut.
Oh, for sure.
Because Connecticut, like towns in general, they function 7 days a week, like all the time.
The economy functions 7 days a week.
There's comedy functions, there's bars, there's restaurants, there's fairs.
Millions
and
more
Whereas
people,
up here, like you said, it's all seasonal, like winter, around the resorts, fall time. Yeah. And then it drops off and nothing happens. It's not consistent. It's very very up and down here. Where in Connecticut, everything seems to be always.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I always have that running joke driving back to Connecticut, where as soon as you hit Springfield, Mass, Enfield, there it is. Your driving's got to change. It's got to go back to what you remember.
Yeah, I used to get that from, growing up in Northwest Connecticut, and like once you get into Fairfield County, particularly 95,
ooh, look out.
Like a switch goes off.
Look out. Oh,
but now, living up here for all these years, like you said, like once I hit Springfield, I'm getting that same thing. It's like, okay, now I got to put my game face on. I got to put it in another gear.
Yeah.
stay in my own lane for sure.
My traffic last night going home from the Spring House back to the condo was turkeys crossing the road. And that's still majority of what the traffic's been like since being up here for 6 years, is it's cows and turkeys crossing over, the street to go to their farm.
Yeah, turkeys all over Connecticut too, but they're behind the wheel of a car.
Oh, yeah, yeah. By the way, I want to make a special shout out once again. Thanks everybody for tuning in on episode number 11 with my good friend, partner in crime, Badger brother, Jay Osborn. Shout out once again to all my friends and family that have been badly affected by the flooding in the Naugatuck Valley and Fairfield County a couple weeks ago on the Sunday. Shout out to everybody there. My thoughts and prayers, and I know they're making a bounce back, just like everybody that from that area that has property up here that helped Ludlow, Vermont out in July of 2023. Because Mother Nature, she has not been kind. But you know what is kind? Our instruments. And we'll have plenty more to talk to on the next episode. But they're crying, my friend. Let's play.
Right, let's do it.
Let's do it.
And I have to give a
make a special shout out. Yeah, we've been doing that with all the artists. Yeah,
Dozy Cajones.
Yes, Keith Lombard-Dozy, but only call him Dozy.
Only call him Dozy.
Only call him Dozy.
Right here.
Yeah,
this is all you need to know.
Yeah,
based out of North Springfield.
We're gonna get him on for an episode one of these days.
Yes, we are.
Yeah, and Dougie Marsh also as well too. Yeah. All right, what do you say we play some tunes? Do we know how to do that?
We know how to do that. I don't know what we're going to do, but cheers.
By the way, I forgot to mention also, too, the family continues to grow on the table. Buddha, led by the Buddha. Did you rub the Buddha's belly yet?
I haven't.
Come on, bring it in. You got it. Jason Veritek, bobblehead. Boom. It sort of moves. Moose, bear, pumpkin. The pumpkin actually has a light up mouth, by the way.
Nice.
But I didn't feel like interjecting with that. So, all right. So Jay likes playing my originals, which once again, you guys can follow via my website, sammybmusic.com, and purchase any of my 15 songs and or just stream them from Spotify, for example. This one is called You Don't Like What You See. This is actually about, it's very relative, shutting off your technology from time to time, especially the news, the TVs. We all can relate to that, right, Rabbit?
Right, Rabbit.
We all can relate to that. You look good in that, by the way.
I feel good.
Yeah, you actually put the hat backwards now, which is nice. So
I kind of feel special now.
Once again, he was a good boy.
Yeah.
That's right, big shot. Or as you like to say, shot. Capital H. Okay, am I ready? I think
let's
I am.
do this.
Yeah, okay. 1, 2, 1, 2, 3, 4. Hey, yeah. Ooh, yeah. Every day you wake up, something new. Television could just give you the blues. Wanna know exactly, baby, what can be done just to get ourselves on back to having some fun. Well, do we have a chance to fight? Baby, make this all feel right. Good vibes and good times are here inside, yeah. I said you don't like what you see. You don't like what you see. Very nice. As the hours go by, you might stumble and fall. Try to make everybody happy, pay for it all. Well, despite all the torture and pain, you're the last one to stand. Sort of feels like playing in a rock and roll band. Yeah. Oh, do we have a chance to fight? Baby, may this all feel right. Good vibes and good times here inside. Yeah. I said you don't like what you see. You don't like what you see. I said you don't like what you see. You don't like what you see. Shot. Segue.
Just like we rehearsed.
Keep it simple. Yes. This one is released off of my EP Family Ties back in 2021. Shout out also once again to Vincent Freeman and his team at the Underground in Randolph, Vermont. 1, 2, 1, 2, 3, 4. Just like the record. Gotta be away, get out of this place. Simplicity in love is just not the case. Seems like a challenge for people to see. Let each other live in peace and harmony. Squirrel. Clown.
Yeah.
Rabbit. Take it from me, I've searched for a way. Keep my life very simple and go about my day. Shot. Doesn't take much, not being bored. Tell your same story again once more. But we all have some things that you cannot change. But the little things in life you can rearrange. There's the last thing you want is to be stuck in the middle. But you don't have to worry if you just keep it simple. Keep it simple, baby. You don't even know, yeah. Keep it simple, baby. Yeah.
Nice.
That was tight. Nice. Cheers one more time.
Cheers one more time.
You know, yeah. All right. That's going to do it for episode number 11 of The Tasty Twist with Sammy B. Once again, I am your host and producer, Sammy Blanchette. Shout out to Rebecca, Patrick, and Peter. Jay Osborn, thank you, sir. The other drummer of Rick Reddington and The Tough Love.
And
Once
thank
again,
you.
yeah. Once again, follow me on my website, sammybmusic.com. Shout out to Okemo Valley TV. Check them out, okemovalley.tv. Once again, subscribe to their YouTube channel. Check them out on live TV and download their mobile app on your smart device. Catch you all next time. Thank you, everybody. Peace and love. What you